Hi everyone and welcome to this week's WARNO dev blog, kinda confirming as we've been expecting that Murat is delayed till next week, which is a shame, but it's sort of been earlier confirmed by one of the devs in Discord anyway. Right, let's get into the blog itself. The latest update for WARNO is coming in hot. The new Murat milestone is right around the corner. They had hoped to deliver it by the end of this week, but there's some last minute tweaks that needed adjusting. Therefore, they're delaying it till early next week. But you will be able to see some streaming of the current version over the weekend. I don't have access to that because I'm not in the strike team, but Protozocker at SD League will, and you can watch him as usual over on Twitch. Now, apart from all the new goodies we get to play with, including the 2 new divisions in Murat, they've also taken time to address some of the recurring player feedback and make some necessary changes. Now, I'm just going to take a step out a second to say, thank God it's about damn time. Because this stuff was things that I've been talking about since the game was pretty much released and since some of these other units were added, so I'm really pleased that they've taken the feedback on board from everyone and have gone in and made these changes. So what's actually going to be getting altered or fixed? Infantry combat is getting a rework. How self-propelled anti-aircraft guns or SPAGs work is getting a rework as well, and close air support planes have all gotten a little adjustment. First up is the Infantry Combat Redux. We hear your comments on this type of combat being too deadly and too fast, especially with the introduction of the Uber Germans. The latter was not by design, mind you. Our intention with the current infantry settings, specifically the unified ranges, as in all the weapons had the same range, was to make infantry combat easier to understand and easier to handle, particularly for new players. However, considering your feedback, we have come to understand that a different way forward might be best. Now, game design is a tricky beast, and the perceived problem by the player might not always benefit from the most obvious solution, aka how it then interacts with other elements, and maybe that change might cascade into deeper changes needed in the rest of the game, etc, etc. Having discussed infantry combat in depth within the team, we spotted 2 main issues. Weapon lethality is currently way too high, and unified ranges make little difference between weapon categories. So assault rifles, medium machine guns, etc. are all the same, and it means that all squads are basically identical to some degree. So what have they done? They have decided to overhaul small arms to increase the time to kill factor, making infantry combat more interesting, providing more tactical options, such as they have reworked the infantry weapon suppression and weapon damage values. So they are introducing, or if you're a Wargame or SD2 veteran, reintroducing the original sort of statistics that they had, which is a more varied set of ranges for infantry weapons. This allows small arms to be better differentiated in order to form longer to shorter ranges. Medium machine guns, the M60, PKM, MG3, etc. There will be assault rifles, the M16, the AK, etc. And there will be SMGs, the Uzi, the MP5, etc, etc. So medium machine guns will only shoot when immobile and produce a very high volume of fire. Their accuracy won't be modified by distance, since an MMG's role is to throw very generous amounts of bullets across a large area of effect, not to be accurate. The medium machine gun's role is therefore to suppress rather than to kill. Assault rifles will have shorter ranges and slower rates of fire, as well as a minimal area of effect. Their role is to kill, not necessarily to suppress. Their accuracy won't be very high at maximum range, but an assault rifle's accuracy will increase when getting closer on to the target. Specifically in this case, weapons getting under 350 meters will be considered close quarters combat and will have their damage and accuracy greatly improved. SMGs will be very effective in close quarters combat ranges and be more accurate than assault rifles. They will barely deal suppression, however, just focusing purely on damage. And then there are the SAW, or the squad automatic weapons, the M249, the RPK, etc. and these will be considered super assault rifles, so act in a similar way. The upcoming patch with Murat will include the suppression to kill ratio changes, but not yet the range updates. These will be introduced separately in the very near future. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think that's reasonable because, you know, this is a big change to what is already in the game. They're reverting to what they had in Wargame and SD2. I think it's a necessary change. We've been discussing it for, you know, months now since the game was released that there's an issue with these weapons and the infantry squads. So, you know, let them take the time to make sure that the ranges are correct, because they're probably not going to be the exact same ranges that were in Wargame, for example. But let's move on to the next big update for this patch, which is self-propelled anti-aircraft guns. The anti-aircraft vehicles with autocannons or guns, but not those equipped with missiles, have been commented on to be somewhat random in efficiency. The Soviet Shilka Biryusa overperform, while others are lackluster, especially the Tunguska for example. A separate issue identified was that the Spag rounds follow the target beyond their weapon's official maximum range. You remember when they first came in and they were following units all the way across the map and then destroying them before they exited at the other side? It was getting crazy. They did improve it a bit after that patch, but yeah, it's still pretty bad. They have overhauled the anti-aircraft autocannons to ensure their in-game efficiency reflects the real-life caliber and volume of fire. A puny Vulcan 20mm cannon wouldn't be able to match a double wham of the Gepard's 35mm gun. So as a result, based on caliber, ranges have also been re-evaluated. The Shilka won't fire as far as a Tunguska for instance. The Shilka will still be very effective within its range due to its quad 23mm guns, but the range will be less than previous iterations. Now on top of that change, the fastest aeroplane speeds have been decreased by about 20%. That was something that I kept talking about in comments and things when people were asking what I felt was unbalanced about planes. They have been too fast, and this is a correction for that. This additionally means that Spag will have more time to aim and align on a plane before the aircraft exits the combat envelope. On the other hand, the anti-air autocannon round speed has also been increased by 15%, meaning they will hit within the max range of that vehicle and not beyond. And the final big other alteration, which they haven't really talked about yet, is the change to close air support planes. So cheap close air support, or CAS, has been a hindrance since the release of the 5th Panzer due to the large number it could call in and the 7th Panzer, and this led to ungentlemanly air spam tactics. I'm just going to say that again for effect. Ungentlemanly air spam tactics. I'm looking at you, Protosoccer. That's right. The number of cheap CAS and their availability was originally made for a specific reason. As you can check, the West German in-game lacks their gunship helicopters. The sole armed helicopter is the light and purely anti-tank BO-105 PAH. Therefore, Eugen claim that they are the benevolent French, and thus made trainer planes, fragile and thus cheap, available to the West German division as a compensation. These play the role of gunships. However, the idea was not very well thought out on their part, as unsportsmanlike behaviour of German assets, unseen since the football finale of the infamous Night of Seville in 1982, I'm sure football fans will get that reference, reared its ugly head. Back to the ungentlemanly air spam tactics, Protoss. Therefore, cheap CAS planes will both see their availability per card reduced, and also restricted to no more than one card per type. Further gameplay restrictions on these types of aircraft may come in the future if still required. I'm assuming this will apply to both the 5th Panzer and the 7th Panzer, as well as anyone else who was thinking they could get away with air spam. Now, I'll be honest, no matter how many previews of Murat I've done so far, this is probably the most important one for me. It says to me that they are listening to our feedback and they are making sensible adjustments to things that aren't working very well. The infantry fixes are long overdue and very, very welcome. I'm looking forward to the Rangers being adjusted as well, so that different squads will have different uses other than just their anti-tank capability or their flamethrower capability. I'm also really pleased to see that they've paid attention to the Spag issues and have now fixed that, and the overly fast aircraft where things just didn't seem to match up with the map sizes. Which, you know, it's a video game, they have to make adjustments to speed because, you know, it has to balance and it has to make sense, and they just looked weird on the map sometimes. And also very pleased that they've made changes to the air spam. Sorry those of you who love to spam aircraft, but this was a really necessary change. Obviously feel free to say in the comments what you think of these changes, but obviously please don't have arguments, guys. I know that some people will be fond of air spam, some people won't be, etc, etc, but, you know, feel free to have a chat. Now, the other things are placeholder replacements, so some units currently in game use placeholder models. In certain areas these have been replaced by their proper models, such as the BTR-60, several new T-62s and MiG-25 models and variants are almost ready to go, and they'll be polished and introduced soon after this patch. So, as before, what else is Murat bringing? Well, it's bringing the 2 new divisions. Get ready to deploy the new West German 2nd Panzergrenadier Division and the East German 4th Motorisierte Schützen Division, the 4th MSD. We'll also be getting crewed anti-tank teams, both ATGMs and recoilless rifles, and there will be more updates, improvements and changes And then it says see below for the full changelog, and I'm looking below and I'm thinking, what are you on about? I can't see a full changelog. I think that's a mistake. But oh well, that's the end of the devblog, I guess. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Please like, share, and subscribe. As always, have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully I'll see you all early next week for some Murat.